We will kick off today's episode with our guest speaker pitching why you should listen to our podcast and follow our journey. Let's get started, folks.
For someone like myself, I had no idea, getting out of high school and entering college about renewable energies, such as the wind turbine, the solar energy, and like the work we've been doing. I've learned so much more, and it's really been enriching my experience with renewable energies.
Welcome to an episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team of Southern Illinois University Carbondale. We are a cross-university team of young, innovative minds positively impacting the landscape of SIU Carbondale through promoting and installing clean energy. Here, we are highlighting our team's activities and impact through our members, sponsors, and supporters, as well as discussing a new, interesting topic. So buckle up, because we are driving to a more sustainable future. Today, we have a special guest, one of our team members, Ichiro Pineiro. Ichiro, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, thank you for having me here. My name is Ichiro Pineiro. I am from Florida. I currently go to Broward College in Florida, and I'm actually studying to become an electrical engineer. I'm actually finishing up my associates and plan to transfer to university for my bachelor's.
Awesome. I know I'm excited to have you here today for us to talk and just learn more about one another, mainly about you. But before we kick off into anything green roof related and technology, do you have any interests, any hobbies, fun facts that you would like to talk about for a bit?
Sure. It's been hard to really keep track of my or track of the usual hobbies I used to have before COVID, but I guess now my most recent hobbies would be, I guess, working out at home, spending time playing games online with my friends, um, and also just like studying in my free time, maybe programming a little bit, things like that.
Awesome. What kind of games do you play online?
Um, Funny enough, I don't actually play a lot of like the mainstream stuff, like so first person shooters, I'm not too big on that. I usually play a lot of like single player stuff. Like usually when I'm with my friends, like I'll just be playing and like we'll all each be doing our own things. But it's a really calm environment being able to just play and like talk with one another because it's there like as in with the pandemic, you don't have that in-person interaction anymore. Um, so to answer your question with the games, I guess one game I played recently that I really liked was Red Dead Redemption 2. It had a really good story behind it.
I've heard that's a great game. Cool. So diving into Green Roof, I know we had an interesting way of getting connected through one of our team members, Edward Labarcatoris, who we spoke about earlier in the show. Do you want to talk a bit about how you got to know Edward and how he introduced you to the team?
Yeah. So I think I ended up meeting Edward like a few years back. I actually forgot dang it, how did I forget that? I mean, I'll probably remember later, but I do remember that it was my, was it junior? No, senior year. My senior year, I ended up, we were just talking again, I ended up sending him a message. He sent me a message back. He was like, oh, hey, you're about to graduate. What are you majoring in? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna major in electrical engineering. And he was like, oh, really? I have a friend that is doing a really cool project, and I think you should get into it, and maybe I could see if you could work in his project. And so I think at the summer after I graduated, I ended up getting introduced to you, Nelson, and we had the interview, and I got into the team, and from there, that's basically how I got into the green roof, really.
Also, I remember we were talking that summer, 2 summers ago now. It was such a long time ago.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
just brought all of this like enthusiasm to the call. Of course, like online calls, Zoom calls, it's hard to make it fun now, hard to make it, use the word vibe here. Because when you're in person, it's like easy to like you have that ability to feel that touch, just like that in-person energy. But I remember like the way like you spoke and the way that you showed great interest in the project and in the field and the technology, that just blew me away.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, it was, even then, like it was 2020, and we had a pandemic going on. It was a first for everybody, really.
Almost definitely. And that's just a few months into the pandemic, and we're still here more than a year down the road. Continue with the Green Roof team. What was something that um, inspired you to join the team?
So after being introduced to you guys and the team by Edward, I actually well, it was since I was doing electrical engineering, and I actually started working with the Arduino during that same summer. I ended up seeing the green roof as a way to like improve my skills in my field, or like at least get a glimpse of what engineering could be like, because uh, most of the people in my major, at least from how it seems, these are people that have grown up or like spent years knowing that they were going to be engineers, and in my case, I was gonna go for computer science. you know I grew up thinking like, oh, I'm never gonna be an engineer, and then ironically enough, I ended up switching majors at the last minute, and I went to become an electrical engineer. that's really um that's really what inspired me to get into the green roof, really, just wanting to learn more about the field and to better my skills in it, you know, meeting more like-minded people as well.
Definitely, I know that's my favorite aspect of the team is everyone. We just all came together, different fields, different experiences, different backgrounds, and just all began meshing together, bringing our own perspectives in, and from there, just being able to build that common vision. So, is there anyone from the team that you got particularly close with or talked the most about, or any fun stories with that person?
Um, all right, yeah, there we go. I was gonna say, man, there was so many people. There's so many people, to be honest. I guess one interesting. I mean, I don't want to keep throwing it back to you, but it would probably be you. Um, I would like fun or funny moments, and we had a few of those at times. I guess the most funny one would be when we were doing the wind turbine. Yes, when it was you, Alex, and I were on the Zoom, and we were trying to set up the wind turbine with the Pi, or the anemometer. That's what it was. We're trying to set up the anemometer, and we were having you spin it, and you had to sit there spinning it, and then we were trying to see which wires went where, and then a lot of troubleshooting that we had to conduct. But I thought that was pretty funny because it was just like you were just there spinning it, and you're just like, oh, is it changing or not? Because we were looking at the serial monitor if there were any values that were getting inputted.
Definitely, I
I'd say
remember
that
that.
was pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely remember that evening pretty vividly. I think Steven was here also, and for everyone listening, like just imagine two college students just sitting at a table, manually spinning a wind sensor, hoping for the number to change. Definitely, that was a great memory. I know. I remember for a long time. I know Steven will too. intern Steven, who I believe we had last week, he remembers when he was soldering the crimps onto the wiring for the battery connection, and he had so much trouble with it. And honestly, he probably has PTSD from soldering now, crimps.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that you're building a lot of great connections with everyone. This is a good chunk of the team. Do you want to talk a bit about your relationship with Alex? I know he's been playing a big role too, especially on the team and on you.
Yeah. Alex, I ended up meeting like a few months before I met you. It was, man, everything like fell together, yeah. Um, but yeah, Alex, he was actually the one that introduced me to the Arduino. And you know, he actually was gonna send me I think he sent me a few kids, but I ended up learning basically everything or more or less a lot about the Arduino and how to program it. All the things I could do with it. And I learned more about electrical engineering because Alex is I don't remember what he is now, but he used to be a CNC machinist. And for the longest time, like in his own free time outside of it, he used to do a lot of work with Arduino and Pi and a few things that are like really closely related to electrical engineering. And I think even now he's going for an electrical engineering degree. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, he's really like taught me everything and really, took me around to like everything I could do with electrical engineering, not just with the Arduino, but like with the Pi, with different microcontrollers. I even uh, I even worked with some of the other ones that he gave me, which is like the particle argon and photon, which is it's sort of like an Arduino, but it's part of like the new tech that's coming out that's called IoT. It's Internet of Things. So think of like an Arduino, but it doesn't need the wireless adapter to be wireless. It's just you can program it wirelessly, you can control it with your phone. So yeah, it's really cool tech, and there's just so much you can do with all these things as an electrical engineering major too. It's crazy.
Sweet. So with IoT, do you know if it uses Wi-Fi for the connection or has its own
Yeah,
signal or
IoT IoT actually focuses, well, I don't want to say, I'm gonna say, well, like from my perspective, from what I've heard and what I've seen so far, because I know my university, the one I'm planning to go to, it's one of the first few here, I think, that's offering a degree in it. I think it had its I think it released like last year as well. It was the first year it was out. But basically IoT, um or Internet of Things focuses on Wi-Fi connections and hardware. So like think of like smart cities, smart houses, controlling things with your phone wirelessly, things like that. Um, it's I know that they were trying to implement, or I don't know if they have already, but they're trying to implement IoT into the cars now, where they'll communicate with each other wirelessly. And that's also leading into the self-driving cars. That's the that's sort of how they want to set it up, where cars can communicate with each other wirelessly, but also drive by themselves. Like no, like you can be in there and you don't have to drive. Like it'll just drive manually for you, and it'll also make sure that you don't crash into one another on the street. So it's gathering a lot of data. It deals a lot with sensors, and then the data being sent wirelessly, and then running code based on the data it gets. That's that's sort of the gist of it, I guess, at least from my perspective.
that's really interesting. I know a few weeks ago, a few of us were watching a webinar about addictive additive manufacturing with electric vehicles, and that was one topic we were discussing was how do you help improve the engine and performance of EVs in autonomous vehicles? Because I know that they have cruise control, and then the newer cars have the adaptive cruise control that has the sensors to see the car in front of you or vehicle, and it can adjust the speed accordingly. But there's always those few moments where you're driving a bit too fast comparatively to the car in front of you. Then you have that sudden stop, and I know for myself that it's not the best feeling in the world. But
Yeah,
integrating IoT that can help that communication gap and help say, hey, the car in front of you, it's saying that it's beginning to slow down. Maybe we should begin slowing down too, so we don't have a sudden stop, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Do you know anywhere else where IoT has been implemented?
Um, Man, it's a good question. IoT, I know, I want to say a company that I heard was going to try to implement IoT was Amazon. I think Amazon's been working with IoT because I think IoT as well, it has basically it's like physical objects that are embedded with sensors, and so they'll have like software in it. They'll be able to process a lot of that data and exchange it with other devices and systems over like the internet or other communication networks. Um, yeah, so I just saw right now. Yeah, so Amazon has on its AWS thingy, they have IoT services for industrial, consumer, and commercial solutions. So yeah, it even brings artificial intelligence and IoT together to make devices more intelligent. So you can create models in the cloud and then deploy them to devices where they run 2 times faster compared to other offerings. And yeah, they also that's another thing too is that with IoT they're also bringing in cybersecurity. Because if you're exchanging a lot of data, there's a chance that people could hack into it as it's going to be sent over Wi-Fi or like wirelessly. So that's another thing that IoT is bringing is the cybersecurity field. I think that was it's pretty interesting where it's all coming together.
Awesome. Definitely. I'm excited for the next 10 years. Like, we're going to have a great growth in technology development, more so than I would say even the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So connecting with the greener roof, how do you how do you see the impact that we're making towards the future and seeing the development of technology grow?
I want to say it's a great project really. You know, even for the team as well, like for all of us, like we're all learning new things. We're all learning more about renewable energies. We're all being able to at least gauge or see the impacts that green roofs could have in our environment, in the ecosystem, or like with the wind turbine as well. It could be a new form of we can start even installing like more wind turbines, micro wind turbines, and using them as like a way to generate electricity. um right now, like we haven't I would say we haven't like completely like made a strong foundation yet, but with what we've had and what we've done, it really helps emphasize the importance of renewable energies, and it it basically paves the path uh, for like the future of those renewable energies, like the importance of them.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. And then you have that social side also of empowering students to go into those fields, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that we talked a bit about how you got into electrical engineering and how the Green Roof team is helping you to practice those skills, but also meet others like-minded. Do you want to talk about any specific technologies or softwares that you've been hands-on with?
Um, Really, it's been the my most main one, my primary one would be the Arduino.
Were there any like cool projects that you worked on in the Green Roof team or outside that got you
Um,
interested in it and how it made you feel?
oh, okay. So yeah, with the Arduino, I'd say I did a lot of things with it during the summer. And one thing I remember making was I had an old art box I made in 3D art class my senior year. And when I got the Arduino kit, I saw that they had a sensor, and I didn't know what this sensor was. I didn't know what it did. But as I learned more about the Arduino and like all the parts it came with, I found out that that part was a ultrasonic sensor. So I started learning how to program that. Then after I learned how to program it, I ended up implementing that ultrasonic sensor into my art box. And the art box had an opening on the top. So I also grabbed another part, which is a servo motor. So then I put the servo motor inside the box and I taped it up, and then I had connected servo motor and the ultrasonic sensor to the Arduino. And where this is going is basically I programmed the ultrasonic sensor to detect and run a certain line of code when something's like in front of it at a certain distance. So when I implemented that, I also programmed the code that it runs basically moves the servo motor up or down. So the way I had it set up was the art box, if I stuck my hand in front of it or if I was gonna like put something inside of it, and as long as it's within range of the ultrasonic sensor, it would open up the box and then I'd be able to put anything into it. And maybe about uh, let's say 2, 3 seconds, it'll close back and it'll remain neutral again. I would say that was one of the interesting ones I did. Um, Another one that I would say my hardest one would be when I was working with an IR receiver. It's the infrared receiver. This one I was gonna use the remote that came with the kit, but I actually found my old PlayStation 2 remote. Like it was the one that like an actual like TV remote, but it's just for the PlayStation 2. For some reason, I'm guessing because it's also infrared on the serial monitor when I was prototyping or messing with the IR receiver, I got to see every time I pressed the button on the PlayStation 2 remote, uh, lines of code would pop up pertaining to each of those buttons. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I figured out that I could create cases in my Arduino code where if I pressed certain buttons, it would run certain lines of code so it could do multiple things. So another cool thing I did with that or I added on to it was I added an RGB LED, and those you could put like any value you want. You can make it red, you can make it green, you can make it blue, orange, green, anything. Um, and so with the remote, I set it up where if you pressed, let's say, the square button, it would make the RGB LED go purple. If you press the triangle button, it would go green. If you press circle, it would go red, and then if you press X, it would go blue. So that was simple, but then I decided to add another thing onto it, which was the, what was it, the 7 segment display, like a one digit 7 segment display. I added that onto it, so it can only go up to, it goes from 0 to 9. So the way I updated my code or upgraded it was I had it set up where if I uh, pushed like a number on the remote, the 7 segment display would display that number, and then if I pressed enter for each of those numbers from 0 to 9, it would run code that would change the color into into a specific one that's within that code. So like if I had it set up where it was like 0 could be green, 1 could be red, uh, 2 could be aqua, you know, and that one was really complicated because it took up almost all of my it took up almost all the Arduino IO pins, and I also had to troubleshoot it a lot of times because, and you know, it's funny, I bring Alex into this too because I had to ask Alex why my code wasn't working because it seemed like it works, but then it wasn't until he checked it out that it does work. But the problem is that on one of the pins for the Arduino, it has a timer, and if you use that pin and you also run code, the timer it gets let's say, I guess the best word to uh use to describe it would be like it gets intercepted, so it doesn't run properly. So I had to actually switch. I think it was a PWM pin. Yeah, one of the PWM pins had a timer into it that it does its own thing, but it also runs code. So I had to switch it to another pin, and then after I switched the pin, that's when it worked. So yeah, and I remember I spent like, man, I spent like at least a good 3 days or 4 days trying to figure out that all I had to do was switch the pin. And normally you wouldn't know that um unless like, you went out to like look up online uh or like actually read the documentation of the Arduino. So that was I'd say I learned a lot through that. That was a pretty cool project. Um,
Yeah,
let's
definitely.
see.
It's a lot of cool projects, a lot of cool different like sensors you're working with, and like each
Yeah,
one has like their own like uniqueness and own challenges. You know,
yeah.
some of the biggest advice I got in the past year was anytime you work with a new tech, anytime you work with a new technology, read the manual.
Oh
And
yeah, definitely.
yeah, that person could not be more right. Like it's just more about understanding that basic before you go in, dive in, and begin to do some dev work and change it up and modify for how you want.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, Ichiro, I think we're coming towards the end of our chat today. Is there anything else you would like to talk about before we close out?
Um, nope, nope, not really, not particularly.
Awesome, cool. Well, before we go out for today's episode, would you like to pitch to the audience why they should continue to listen to our journey and follow our story on social media and the podcast?
Yeah, so to the audience, I would say really the green roof, you might not know too much about it, but if I, from my perspective, it's a really great experience. Um, and just by watching us, even though you're not here with us or like you don't see us doing this in person, there's so much there's so much to be done with renewable energies, and you can learn so much like about every type of renewable energy. And not only that, but we also learn a lot more about ourselves, you know, how we tackle each problem, different ways of thinking, you know, different perspectives. It's a really good experience, and you know, everyone's learning. Everyone's always going to be learning something new. That's the best thing I could really say.
And with that, we conclude our episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team. Special thanks to our sponsors, the SIU Research Park, Energy at SIU Sustainability Office's Green Fund Grant, the University Innovation Fellows, CH Electrical, Enertech, Raz Coatings, AES Solar, Sprague Supply Group, H&F Visions, Silvix Forestry and Nursery, Nether Chance Studios, Climate Economy Action Network, and many more. And please visit our website for more information and follow us on social media. Stay sustainable, folks.